And now we will have the reading of the law, starting in Exodus, the 20th chapter, verses 1 through 17. Okay.
And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's.
Now let's go to Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verses 13 and 14.
Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments. For this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil.
Now Revelation chapter 22, verses 14 and 15.
Blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gates into the city. For without are dogs, and sorcerers, and whoremongers, and murderers, and idolaters, and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie.
Okay, sisters and brothers, it is good to read the law, because the Lord wants us to read his law, and teach it to all our children in every generation. But before we get started, I want to give a shout out to a few people. I want to give a shout out to Brother Clinton Patterson in Guyana, Sister Madeline Joseph in Trinidad, Marlies and Erica in Switzerland, Jean and Chanel Duplessis in South Africa, Brother Mwiki in Wales, United Kingdom, Sister Mbugwe in Dubai, also Sister Gaga in New Jersey, and the sisters and brothers in Glasgow, Scotland, Manchester, England, Isles of Wight, England, and Sister and Brother Coles in Australia. Also, I want to give a shout out to my sisters in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and also want to give a shout out to the sisters and brothers that's in Bulgaria. And want to say I'm glad to have you online. And I want to also say to their instructor in their language, Brother George Shubanov, good to have you. I also want to say, give a shout out to a brother Brother Robert Rowe and his family in Okinawa, Japan, and Pastor Johnson in the Bethel House of God in Florida. I'm glad to have all of you with us. And I thank God that we all are dealing with the Word of God on the Lord's Sabbath day. Now we're going to get right to the lesson, sisters and brothers, because we're going to have to go and deal with this because this is a pretty lengthy lesson because there's a lot of stuff that we want to cover. And the title of this week's lesson is Black History Told by the Prophets, Part 2, Slavery. Black History Told by the Prophets, Part 2, Slavery. Now we're going to start this because, sisters and brothers, we have had history told to our people, and the only history we ever know is this part of the slavery history. But we want to go and show you, sisters and brothers, that the Lord called this slavery on us even before we got to the promised land the first time. He had just brought us out of the slavery under the Egyptians, and before we got to the promised land, he told us if we didn't do what he say, he was going to put us in this slavery that we are currently going through right now. But you might say, well, I don't feel like a slave. Well, that's because you don't know what a free person feels like. But we're going to start this at Deuteronomy the 28th chapter, and we're going to start at verse 1. Deuteronomy the 28 and 1. Okay, go ahead.
And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
Now the Lord is letting you know. Now if we had observed his commandments, which he commanded us when he brought us out of Egypt, he said he's going to set us on high above all the nations of the earth. This is the blessing that the Lord is going to give us because these are the curses and the blessings that he's going to read into us. So now we're reading the blessings first. Go ahead and read.
And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
He said these blessings are going to come on you and overtake you. You couldn't get away from the blessing had we did what he commanded us. Go ahead and read.
Blessed shall thou be in the city, and blessed shall thou be in the field.
Go ahead.
Blessed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy ground, and the fruit of thy cattle, and in the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep.
So the Lord's going to bless everything that we have and wherever we are, whether we're in the city or whether we're in the field, whether we're in the countries or wherever we are. He's going to bless our children. He's going to bless our livestock. He said, you're going to be blessed if you keep these commandments. And skip down to verse 10, and go ahead.
And all the people of the earth shall see that thou art called by the name of the Lord, and they shall be afraid of thee.
And they're going to see that we are called by the name of the Lord because one of the Lord's name is Israel, sisters and brothers. And he said they're going to be afraid of us if we had done what he said. Go ahead and read. Skip down to verse 12 and go ahead.
The Lord shall open unto thee his good treasure, the heaven to give the rain unto thy land in his season, and to bless all the work of thine hand, and thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow.
So he's going to bless us so, and we're going to be the financiers. We're going to lend to many nations. So all these banks and stuff that we only go into to borrow money from, we would have been the financiers. Had only we had done what the Lord said. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail.
He would have made us the head, not the tail. Go ahead and read.
And thou shalt be above only.
And thou shalt be above only. That's a big statement, sisters and brothers. Had we done what the Lord said, the only position we would have had among men and among nations is the top position. Above only. Go ahead.
And thou shalt not be beneath. If that thou hearken unto the commandments of the Lord thy God, which I command thee this day, to observe and to do them.
He said all you had to do was observe God's commandments and do them the way he said. That's all we had to do. And we would have been the top nation, the top people. We would have been the financiers. We would have been ahead of everything that go on this planet. All we had to do was keep God's commandment. But he's going to let you know if you do not do it, then I'm going to tell you about the curses that's going to come upon you. Skip down to verse 15 And go ahead.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day,
Go ahead.
that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
Now, if you don't keep his commandments, he said, all these curses are going to come upon you and they're going to overtake you. You will not be able to run away from them, sisters and brothers. They're going to come upon you wherever you are. Go ahead and read.
Cursed shall thou be in the city, and cursed shall thou be in the field.
Wherever you find yourself, you're going to be cursed. Go ahead and read.
Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body.
In other words, your children are going to be cursed. Something always going to be happening to them. Go ahead and read.
And the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind,
Go ahead.
and the flocks of thy sheep.
Now, I mean, everything. The Lord just reversed all the blessings and turn them to a curse if you don't do what he said. Skip down to verse 25 and go ahead.
The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies.
Go ahead.
Thou shalt go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them.
Now, the Lord said when you go out and fight, so you're going to go one way and they're going to scatter you 7 ways, and what's going to happen? Go ahead and read.
And shalt be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth.
And you're going to be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. Removed, sister and brother. That means somebody took you and scattered you all over the earth. Not just you're going to migrate for your own well-being, you're going to be taken now. Skip down to verse 36 and go ahead.
The Lord shall bring thee and thy king which thou shalt set over thee unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone.
So whatever nation you're going to find yourself in, you're going to be serving pagan gods. Go ahead and read.
And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations whither the Lord shall lead thee.
You know, astonishment. People are going to be astounded at our condition and behavior. And you're going to be a proverb. What is a proverb? That they're going to always have something smart to say about your sisters and brothers. Always. And you're going to be a byword. Byword is something that's held in contempt and hated. Whatever nation you find yourself in, it's going to be the same. And we're going to show some of that. We're going to show that today. But skip down to verse 41. Verse 41 and go ahead.
And thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity.
And that's what happened. Our sons and our daughters was taken away from us, even in Europe, sisters and brothers, during the Inquisition. And some of them were shipped to spots in South Africa. And some of them were stayed there, but either way it go, they was taken away from us, sisters and brothers. Skip down to verse 43 and go ahead.
The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high.
Go ahead.
And thou shalt come down very low.
What you mean, stranger that's within thee? Because when Israel left Egypt, sisters and brothers, it was a mixed multitude when the Lord took down Egypt and took us out of it. It was a mixed multitude. In other words, people from different nations, strangers. Because if you're not an Israelite, then you're a stranger. That's why I said a stranger's going to come up, that's within you, going to come up here very high, and you're going to come down very low. He didn't name them. What is that telling me? That everybody around you that's not an Israelite is going to be up higher than you. And you as a people are going to be beneath. Go ahead and read.
He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him.
See, you just reversed it. This stranger's going to lend to you, but you ain't going to be able to loan to him. Go ahead and read.
He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed.
Go ahead.
Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee.
See, because we would not keep those laws, some of which we read today, especially the 10 Commandments. So you're going to be cursed wherever you are. And all you got to do is look at how many things has happened to us as a people and see whoever has suffered the same thing that we suffered. What verse was that?
We just finished 45.
Okay, go ahead.
And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
They're going to be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon your seed forever. What is a sign, sisters and brothers? A sign is something to identify, So the Lord is telling us, whatever people you find that this has happened to, that is Israel. And if this did not happen to them, then this sign means nothing.
That's right.
But he said it should be a sign and a wonder. Signs show what's happened to them, and they wondering why it happened to them. Well, we know why, because we are reading this book. Go ahead and read.
Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things.
Go ahead.
Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger.
He said, look, because you won't serve me in joy of heart for all the blessing I've done with you, I tell you what, you're going to serve your enemy, and you're going to serve him in hunger. Go ahead.
And in thirst.
And in thirst.
And in nakedness.
And in nakedness.
And in want of all things.
And in want of all things. Go ahead.
And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee.
All you got to do is look around and see who this has happened to, sisters and brothers. That's all. Skip down to verse 64. Verse 64 and read it.
And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other.
Go ahead.
And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
And we're going to do that. And we're doing it right now in this country and a whole lot of other countries. We serving gods that our fathers knew nothing about. Nothing. Skip down to verse 66 and go ahead.
And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shall have none assurance of thy life.
So you're going to be the most likely to be killed. No matter where you are, you can be killed. Whole lot of people trying to kill you. Whole lot of people don't like you, so your life is going to hang in balance. And what else is going to happen? Skip down to verse 68 and read it.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
Now, Egypt means house of bondage to us, sisters and brothers. Those are the first people that looked like us was our slavers. Because he tell you in Hosea the 11th chapter, Hosea 11 and 5, that we ain't going to go into Egypt no more once he brought us out. So what he's talking about, this Egypt to us is the house of bondage, and he already said he's going to scatter us into all the nations under the sun. Egypt ain't but one nation. But when we get to these nations, let's see what's going to happen to us. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again.
And ships, thou shalt see it no more again. Go ahead and read.
And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
And once you arrive in these ships, I want you to put me an image of the ships up there. You're going to be sold as bondmen and bondwomen. And ain't nobody going to buy you out as slave. So we didn't come over here on yachts. This is the ship that we was brought. When we look at their sisters and brothers, they had us piled up in them ships like planks, rows one over another. And I mean, these ships was stuffed with us. And once we got here, sisters and brothers, they sold us as male and female slaves. We have other people running around naming everybody as a part of the nation of Israel. But all I tell people, when you hear that, ask the question, did you come over on slave ships? Did the American Indians come on slave ships? Did the Mexicans come over on slave ships? Did the Puerto Ricans come up on slave ships? No. Well, who came up on slave ship? Whoever it is, once you find out who it is, you have put your finger on Israel, because the Lord said what we just read shall be a sign, sisters and brothers. And a sign identifies. So when you know the sign, then you will know who Israel is. Now we read the blessings and the curses. Now let's see which one we came under. Let's go into Daniel's the 9th chapter. Daniel's chapter 9. Because it's a funny thing, nobody want to be us when the slavery was going on. But now at the end of it, when the Lord's getting ready to return his people, everybody want to be Israel now. You don't want to be a part of the labor. You don't want to be a part of the destruction, but you want to be a part of the blessing. No, the Lord don't work like that. Daniel's 9, and we're going to start at verse 9. Daniel's 9 and 9. Okay, go ahead.
To the Lord our God belong mercy and forgiveness, though we have rebelled against him.
Go ahead.
Neither have we obeyed the voice of the Lord our God, to walk in his laws, which he set before us by his servants, the prophets.
Now, look like we brought the ball, didn't we?
That's right.
Go ahead and read.
Yeah, all Israel have transgressed thy
How much?
law. All Israel.
Uh-huh.
Even by departing, that they might not obey thy voice.
Uh-huh.
Therefore the curse is poured upon us.
Oh, so the curse is poured upon us then, isn't it? Go ahead and read.
And the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of God, because we have sinned against him.
So the oath have been poured upon us, sisters and brothers. Even the oath that's written by the servant of God, which is Moses, because Moses wrote the 28th chapter of Deuteronomy. Go ahead and read.
And he hath confirmed his words, which he spake against us and against our judges that judged us, by bringing upon us a great evil. For under the whole heaven had not been done as had been done upon Jerusalem.
So he confirmed the curse that he called upon us by bringing a great evil upon us. And he said here that under the whole heaven, it have not been done to any people that has been done to us, sisters and brothers. That's why I tell people, if you want to know who the slaves here in America's, who the slaves are here in America's hemisphere, find out who was brought over here on slave ship and sold for male and female slaves. If that didn't happen to them, they are not Israel. Now let's go into let's go into Psalm the 44th chapter. Psalm chapter 44. Because the Lord did this to us, sisters and brothers, because he gave us the option to keep his laws and his statutes, his commandments, and be blessed beyond all people on the planet, or either break them and be cursed above all people of the planet. But what have we done? We chose to be cursed. That's why I tell people all the time, I have no issue with no other people, because the thing that's happened to us is between us and our God. God said it was going to happen to us. Somebody had to do it to us. I just want you to know who it was that it was done to. Us. Psalm chapter 44. Psalm chapter 44. And we're going to start reading at verse 9. 44:9. Okay, go ahead.
But thou hast cast off and put us to shame, and goest not forth with our armies.
Now, this is the Lord talking about, this Israel talking to the Lord. So you done cast us off and put us to shame, and you don't go with our armies like you used to. Go ahead and read.
Thou makest us to turn back from the enemy, and they which hate us spoil for themselves.
The enemies we have to turn back in their face, and the people that hate us spoil us for themselves. Go ahead and read.
Thou hast given us like sheep appointed for meat, and hast scattered us among the heathen.
Like sheep appointed for meat. People kill us and nobody cares. And now he has scattered us among the nations, like he said. Go ahead and read.
Thou sellest thy people for naught, and dost not increase thy wealth by their price.
You sold us and you didn't get wealthy from it. Go ahead and read.
Thou makest us a reproach to our neighbors, a scorn and a derision to them that are round about us.
Don't nobody want to be around us. We're a reproach to them. We're a scorn and derision for everybody around. That's why when we move in, everybody moves out. Don't nobody want to be around us, sisters and brothers. We are a reproach to our neighbors. And when we come in, everybody says, time to go. Go ahead and read.
Thou makest us a byword among the heathen.
That means that's all them little old pet names they give us. We are byword among the nations. Go ahead and read.
A shaking of the head among the people.
And everybody's shaking their head at us. Oh, I don't know about them people. I don't know about them people. Them some terrible people. Them some pitiful people. They ain't got no morals. They ain't got this. A shaking of the head. The Lord said he did this to us. Why? Because we broke his commandment. And we are an object of contempt, sisters and brothers. An object of contempt. Don't nobody care about us. Somebody act like it sometime, but when the chips go down, we stand in the wrong place. Why? It's because we did not serve our God. Now let's go into Song of Solomon. I'm going to show you this love story here. But people that don't understand saying that this is a love story between Solomon and one of his strange women. But I beg to differ. And the scripture begs to differ. We're going to show you this is a love story between God and his people, sisters and brothers. God ain't interested in Solomon's physical love story, physical engagement he had with some woman. But he used it to show his love for his people. Songs of Solomon, we're going to start reading at verse 1. Songs of Solomon, verse 1. Go ahead and read.
The Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for thy love is better than wine.
Uh-huh.
Because of the savor of thy good ointments, thy name is as ointment poured forth.
Go ahead.
Therefore do the virgins love thee.
Go ahead.
Draw me, we will run after thee. The king hath brought me into his chambers. We will be glad and rejoice in thee. We will remember thy love more than wine. The upright love thee.
Now let's talk about the upright love thee. Let's talk about the Lord here. And the woman here is Israel. But go ahead and read.
I am black, but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem.
Now this is the Lord talking to his people. I am black, but comely, O you daughters of Jerusalem. Go ahead and read.
As the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon.
Go ahead.
Look not upon me because I am black.
He said, look not upon me because I am black.
Because the sun hath looked upon me. My mother's...
Now we know that sun cannot turn you black.
That's right.
It can give you a tan, and if you stay too long, it will give you skin cancer. But it cannot turn you black. And what did he say about his mother? Go ahead.
My mother's children were angry with me.
My mother's children was angry with me. Let's hold up right there, and we're going to pursue this a little bit. Because we're going to show you who his mother's children is and who he's talking about. Because this is Jesus talking, sisters and brothers, before he came in the name of Jesus. Let's go first in the 69th chapter of Psalm. But you can put a marker here because we're going to be back. Psalm 69. Psalm 69. Because we're going to pursue this, sisters and brothers, because the Lord have it in here, because he wants us to know what's going on. He wants to let us know the love he has for his people, even though his people have rebelled against him from the day that he brought us up out of Egypt. I mean a continuous rebellion. Psalm 69 and verse 6, 69 and 6. Now this is the Lord, he is Jesus the high priest, sisters and brothers, and he is pleading for his people. 69 and 6. Go ahead and read.
Let not them that wait on thee, O Lord God of hosts, be ashamed for my sake.
It said, let not them that wait on thee, O Lord of hosts, be ashamed for my sake. This is not David talking about David for David's sake. This is for the Lord's sake. Go ahead and read.
Let not those that seek thee be confounded for my sake.
He said, let not those that seek thee be confounded for my sake. Go ahead.
O God of Israel.
O God of Israel.
Because
he's pleading for this people. Go ahead and read.
Because for thy sake.
Because for thy sake.
I have borne reproach.
I have borne reproach.
Shame hath covered my face.
And shame hath covered my face. He's letting you know, because don't let your people be forsaken for my sake. Don't let them be ashamed for my sake, because for thy sake, O God of hosts, shame have covered me, and I have suffered reproach. When did he do that? That's when he came in the flesh. But we're going to pursue this and find out who this is talking about. That's telling the Lord, don't forsake my people for my sake. Let's go into Romans, the 15th chapter. Did I finish that?
No, we didn't finish.
What verse was that?
We finished verse 7. We have
verse 7. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Let's continue. 69 and verse 7. Go ahead and read.
Verse 8.
Verse 8. Go ahead.
I am become a stranger unto my brethren.
Now look what it says now. I am become a stranger unto my brethren.
And an alien unto my mother's children.
And an alien to my mother's children. That sounds familiar, don't it? Did we just read in Songs of Solomon? My mother's children was angry with me.
That's right.
He said, so I become a stranger to my brethren and an alien to my mother's children. Who is his mother and children? They are the children of Israel, because Jesus came in the flesh as a Hebrew Israelite. He came through the tribe of Judah. And he came to his own, and to tell you point blank, but his own received him not. So he became an alien to his mother's children. Go ahead and read.
For the zeal of thine house hath eaten me up.
For the zeal of thine house hath eaten me up.
And the reproaches of them that reproach thee are fallen upon me.
and the reproaches of them that reproach thee, and the sins of those that sin against you have fallen on me. Now let's go and see who this is talking about. Now let's go into Romans the 15th chapter. Romans chapter 15. Romans chapter 15. Because we like to let the Bible show you who's doing the talking. By the mouth of the prophets, sisters and brothers. In this case, by the mouth of David. Romans 15. Romans 15. And we're going to read verse 1. Romans 15 and verse 1. Romans 15 and verse 1. Okay, read it.
We then that are strong ought to bear the infirmities of the weak.
We that are strong should bear the infirmities of the weak. Go ahead.
And not to please ourselves.
And not please ourselves. We need to be just like our God. Skip down to verse 3. Verse 3 and go ahead.
For even Christ pleased not himself.
For even Christ pleased not himself.
But as it is written.
But as it is written.
The reproaches of them that reproach thee fell on me.
The reproaches of them that reproach me, thee fell on me. Who said that? The one that was an alien to his mother's children, sisters and brothers. And this say it was Jesus. Isn't that what it said?
That's right.
It was Jesus, sisters and brothers. Now let's go back to Songs of Solomon, the first chapter, and we're going to see what else that the Lord said concerning his people. Songs of Solomon, chapter 1, and we're going to read verse 6 again. We're going to read the entire verse. Okay, go ahead.
Look not upon me, because I am black.
So he just told her he's black. Go ahead and read.
Because the sun hath looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyards, but mine own vineyard have I not kept.
And the same mother's children, which are Israel, made him the keeper of the vineyards, while my own vineyard have gone unkept. Let's see who his vineyard is. Let's go into Isaiah, the 5th chapter. Because he said, my mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of other vineyards, while my own vineyard has gone unkept. Sisters and brothers, these vineyards are talking nation. We're going to show you it's talking to Israel. Because look around. Everybody is doing well, but us as a people. No matter where you find us at, we run nothing. Isaiah chapter 5 and verse 1. Go ahead and read.
Now will I sing to my well-beloved a song of my beloved touching his vineyard.
Now, he said, I'm going to sing to my well-beloved a song of my well-beloved touching his vineyard. Because he said you have made, this is the same love story that we was reading in the first chapter of Solomon. Go ahead and read.
My well-beloved hath a vineyard in a very fruitful hill. And he fenced it and gathered out the stones thereof.
Go ahead.
And planted it with the choicest vine. And built a tower in the midst of it. And also made a wine press therein. And he looked that it should bring forth grapes, and it brought forth wild grapes.
They planted this vineyard and put everything in it that he needed. The best seeds, the best equipment, everything. But when he looked for grapes, he found wild grapes. Go ahead and read.
And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem, and men of Judah, judge, I pray you, betwixt me and my vineyard.
Go ahead.
What could have been done more to my vineyard that I have not done in it? Wherefore then I looked that it should bring forth grapes, brought it forth wild grapes.
Now he said, what could have been done? I want you to judge. What could have been done? I gave it the best of everything. I gave him good laws. I gave him riches. I gave him the best land that flows with milk and honey. What more could I have done? But when I looked for grapes, I saw wild grapes. In other words, he's going to show you when he looked for righteousness, he saw wickedness. But go ahead and read.
And now go to. I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard.
Now I will tell you what the strangers will do to my vineyard.
What I will do to my vineyard.
What I will do to my vineyard. Go ahead and read.
I will take away the hedge thereof.
Go ahead.
And it shall be eaten up. And break down the wall thereof, and it shall be trodden down.
Now when you take away the hedges, sisters and brothers, the angels are our hedges. He said he's going to remove them. And you're going to be eaten up. He's going to take away the wall from his vineyard. It's going to be trodden down. Everybody uses you. Go ahead and read.
And I will lay it waste. It shall not be pruned nor digged.
Go ahead.
But there shall come up briars and thorns.
Go ahead.
I will also command the clouds that they rain no rain upon it.
I mean, the Lord is really working this vineyard over because it rebelled against us. So we need to know who this vineyard is. Go ahead.
For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel.
Oh, it's the house of Israel.
That's
Go
right.
ahead.
And the men of Judah his pleasant plant. And he looked for judgment, but behold oppression. For righteousness, but behold a cry.
So, sisters and brothers, so this, we know who it is then that the Lord was talking about. The Lord that said he was black, he said, my mother's children have made me the keeper of other vineyards while my own vineyard has gone unkept. So who is the vineyard? According to what the Lord said here in Isaiah the 5th chapter, it is the whole house of Israel. And Judah is his pleasant plant. When he looked for righteousness, he found corruption. He gave us laws and commandments and statutes. We broke all the laws and did everything he said don't do. So this vineyard of the Lord is the whole house of Israel. And Judah is his pleasant plant. We sinned against him, sisters and brothers. And when you sin against him, then you fell under the curse. Skip down to verse 13 and go ahead.
Therefore my people are gone into captivity because they have no knowledge.
So my vineyard, because I found sin and lawbreakers and disobedience against me, I had to put them in captivity. And why is it they're in captivity? Because they have no knowledge. They refuse to know God and refuse to know his laws and statutes. So my people have gone into captivity because they have no knowledge. Go ahead and read.
And their honorable men are famished.
And their honorable men are famished. The people we hold in high esteem, they don't have no knowledge either. Go ahead and read.
And their multitude dried up with thirst.
So if your honorable men, your leaders and your ministers and your teachers don't have no understanding, you don't have any either. Go ahead.
Therefore hell hath enlarged herself.
Go ahead.
And opened her mouth without measure. And their glory, and their multitude, and their pomp, and he that rejoiceth shall descend into it.
So now hell have enlarged itself, sisters and brothers. And what we doing, all our glory and all our high talk and all our singing and dancing, we have descended into it. What is hell, sisters and brothers? Hell is a state of condition. We are on the low end of everything. We work but don't have enough money. We labor and still impoverished. We have the short stick of everything on this planet, not just here in America. We're going to show you that before we get out of this lesson. We're scared of our children. We're scared of the dog. We're scared of the police. We're scared of everybody. Because, sisters and brothers, our state of condition is bad. Why? Because when the Lord planted us, we was a clean and upright vineyard, and we found a way to corrupt ourselves. Let's go into Jeremiah, the 2nd chapter. Jeremiah chapter 2. That's why, sisters and brothers, I don't lay the blame on no other people. No other people. Our condition was brought upon us by our God because of the misbehaving of our fathers. So we don't have the room to hate anybody. What we need to do is find out how to get back close to our God, because this is between us and the God of Israel. Jeremiah 2, and we're going to start and read at verse 4. Jeremiah 2 and 4. Okay, go ahead.
Hear ye the word of the Lord, O house of Jacob.
Go ahead.
And all the families of the house of Israel.
To hear ye the word of the Lord, O house of Jacob, and all the families of the house of Israel. Go ahead and read.
Thus saith the Lord, what iniquity have your fathers found in me, that they are gone far from me, and have walked after vanity, and are become vain?
Now the Lord asked this question. I'm asking you, what iniquity or what sin have your fathers found in me, that they done ran away from me and walking after vain gods? What iniquity? Skip down to verse 21. Verse 21. And go ahead.
Yet I had planted thee a noble vine,
He said, but yet I have planted you a noble vine. Go ahead.
wholly a right seed.
Wholly a right seed.
How then art thou turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me?
He said, how then have you turned to the degenerate? Otherwise, you have digressed and you have been corrupted. How have you turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me? Remember, he said he looked for grapes and he found wild grapes.
That's right.
How have this happened? Skip down to verse 30. Look what you've done. Verse 30, go ahead.
In vain have I smitten your children.
He said, now to smitten your children, it don't mean nothing. You still ain't getting better. Go ahead and read.
They receive no correction.
Uh-huh.
Your own sword hath devoured your prophets like a destroying lion.
He said, look, and your own sword have killed your prophet. The strangers didn't kill your prophets. You kill your prophets. The ones that I sent and told you, thus said the Lord God, hear your God. What you do, you stone them to death. Go ahead and read.
O generation, see ye the word of the Lord.
Uh-huh.
Have I been a wilderness unto Israel?
Go ahead.
A land of darkness?
Uh-huh.
Wherefore say my people, we are lords, we will come no more unto thee.
Isn't this what's going on now? People out here even question the Bible nowadays. Israelites question the Bible more than everybody else. Come up with all kind of strange books. It's because what are you saying now to the Lord? We are all lords, and we will not come no more to you. It didn't start in this generation, but it started in your father's generation that got us thrown into captivity, and it's continuing in this generation. Finish that.
It's finished.
He said, look, we ain't going to come no more to you because we are on Lord's sisters and brothers. But the Lord had asked the question, what iniquity have I done to you that your father would turn away from me and follow after vain God? What iniquity? What are you looking for? I listen to my brothers. Their continual conversation is, we're Israel, we're Israel. We're going to do this and we're going to do that. But I never hear nobody talk about salvation. I never hear nobody talking about the coming of the Lord's kingdom and the coming of the Father's kingdom. I never hear nobody talking about the resurrection. All we talking about is Israel, Israel, Israel. Every Hebrew Israelite knew he was a Hebrew Israelite when the Lord threw him out of the land and threw him into captivity. That didn't save him, sisters and brothers. And then when you rejected him and said, we all lost, he sent his prophets to you. And what do? You stone them to death. Let's go into Luke the 13th chapter. Jesus told us about that. Luke chapter 13. Because we refuse to hear the word of God. We refuse to hear the law. People hate the law nowadays. Even if you think you're an Israelite and you don't know it, you think that you're a Gentile. One of the biggest assault that they make is against the law of God. We don't have to keep them old commandments. God knows we can't keep them old commandments. We ain't under the law no more. We're under grace. Anybody make that statement, let me know that they don't have an iota of understanding. Not one tidbit. But you're doing the same thing that your fathers did that got us in this situation. And when you get a guy like myself and others that come and teach the law, you act like we're doing something strange. We got the problem. And nowadays, you won't stone us to death because especially those of us right here in a so-called democratic country, but if you could, a lot of times they would stone us to death. Like you did your fathers, you stoned the prophets. Luke 13 and verse 34. This is Jesus talking here. Luke 13 and 34. Okay, go ahead.
O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, which killeth the prophets.
Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, that killeth the prophets. So who he said? Jerusalem, didn't it?
That's
Go
right.
ahead and read.
and stonest them that are sent unto thee.
And stoneth them that are sent unto you. Go ahead.
How often would I have gathered thy children together,
Uh-huh.
as a hen doth gather her brood under her wings,
How
and
often?
ye would not?
How often would I have gathered you together as a hen gathered her brood up under her wing? But he said what? But you would not be gathered. Go ahead and read.
Behold, your house is left unto you desolate. And verily I say unto you, you shall not see me until the time come when you shall say, blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord.
And that time is still to come. He said, because, oh, Jerusalem, that killed the prophets, how many times I would have gathered you. Go read back in Prophecies, sister and brother, and look at how many times that Jerusalem got in trouble because they sinned against God, and he brought the nations up on them, and they cried out to God, and he would deliver them. Then as soon as they're delivered and start doing well again, they sin again. He brings somebody up on them again, they cry out to him, and he delivered them. Till after a while, the Lord said, I am weary with repentance. I'm going to get rid of all of you. I'm going to scatter you into all the nations under the sun, and once you get there, you going to be slaves. He said, so now you would not obey. Therefore, your house is left to you desolate. America is not my home. All these places in Africa and all the other places in Central and South America where we scatter is not our home. Somebody else is in our home. Because the Lord said, you have sinned against me, therefore your house is desolate. Let's go into Jeremiah, the 12th chapter. Because we need to understand, sisters and brothers, these conditions that was brought upon us by our God. And if you want to get them done, then you need to talk about it. When I get a bunch of Hebrew Israelites to come together, we don't want to come together and talk about how we sin against our God and how we can stop doing things to reverse some of this. No, we ain't going to reverse this until we have served every day. However, the Lord said he would be a little sanctuary to you among your enemies and among these other nations if you still would start to obey him. But we come together, we don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about how much we have been robbed and spoiled and what we ain't going to take no more and who we at war with and how somebody going to serve us and kiss our feet. We should be trying to find out what it is that we did to God that made him so angry at us. And once we find that out, then we start to do the opposite, start to doing the right thing, and he will still bless us in captivity. But you might say, we ain't in captivity. Drive your car without a license. Go fishing without a license. Don't pay your property tax on a home that you already own and you don't want to dime with it. They will take it from you. Everything you do, every law you serve is dictated by somebody else. And the Lord told you that because you will not obey him and keep his laws in righteousness and in joy, you're going to serve your enemies in nakedness, in hunger, and thirst, and in want of all things. Why? It's because you rebel against your God. Jeremiah chapter 12, we're going to start reading at verse 7. Jeremiah 12 and verse 7. Okay, go ahead.
I have forsaken mine house.
I
have left mine heritage.
This is the Lord's talking. He said, I have forsaken mine house. I have left mine heritage. Go ahead and read.
I have given the dearly beloved of my soul into the hand of her enemies.
So, did the enemy take him by force? No. God gave the dearly beloved his soul. Remember, the love story in the Songs of Solomon. He said, I have given the dearly beloved of my soul into the hand of their enemy. Go ahead and read.
Mine heritage is unto me as a lion in the forest.
Go ahead.
It crieth out against me. Therefore have I hated it.
And that's why he gave us into the hand of the enemy. He said, we like a lion in the forest. We cry out against our God. We speak against our God. He said, therefore have I hated it. People say God can't hate. you better read this book. Because what he's done to you, only person that hates you during the time they're dealing with it will do it to you. Therefore, I hated it. Go ahead and read.
Mine heritage is unto me as a speckled bird.
Go ahead.
The birds round about are against her.
Now, he said, we're like a speckled bird. All the other birds are against us. Don't nobody like us. Go ahead and read.
Come ye, assemble all the beasts of the field, come to devour.
Everybody that come to us, they're looking for something. They're not coming to do us good or be concerned about our welfare. They came to devour. Go ahead and read.
Many pastors have destroyed my vineyard.
Who?
Many pastors.
Many pastors have destroyed my vineyard. Go ahead.
They have trod my portion underfoot.
Go ahead.
They have made my pleasant portion a desolate wilderness.
And they're doing it today, teaching you everything. You don't have to keep the law. That's why you're in trouble, because you didn't keep the law. You can eat anything you want. That's why you're in trouble, because you didn't keep his statutes, sisters and brothers. First day of the week, that's the Christian Sabbath day. That's why you're in trouble, because he said, remember the seventh day, which is the Sabbath, and keep it holy.
Right.
Everything that you have been taught by many pastors are the same thing that got you in trouble. Many pastors have destroyed my vineyard, and they left it as a desolate wilderness. What verse are we?
We have verse 11.
Go ahead.
They have made it desolate, and being desolate, it mourneth unto me.
Uh-huh.
The whole land is made desolate,
Uh-huh.
because no man layeth it to heart.
And don't nobody lay it to heart. Don't nobody want to keep his laws. Go ahead and read.
The spoilers are come upon all high places.
Go ahead.
Through the wilderness.
Uh-huh.
For the sword of the Lord shall devour from the one end of the land even to the other end of the land.
Go ahead.
No flesh shall have peace.
So he done brought the enemies up on us, sisters and brothers. But he called it the sword of the Lord,
That's
didn't he?
right.
Because the people that come to us, they are the sword of the Lord. So they have devoured the whole land. I mean, the righteous and the unrighteous. Therefore, ain't no flesh going to have no peace. The Lord did this, sisters and brothers. And the Lord has done it. He brought the Assyrians in, and they took out 9 tribes. He brought, and we ain't heard from them no more.
Nuh-uh.
We know where they are now. We're starting to locate them in these last days. But then he used Nebuchadnezzar to take out the 3 tribes, Levi, Benjamin, and Judah. They took us out, sisters and brothers. And we have gone from capture to capture to capture, from owner to owner to owner. We have been slaves twice as long as we have been a nation.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because we will not deal with it. Now let's deal with some of the end time of this and show you how the Lord, the sword of the Lord had come upon us. That's by the hands of men. Let's go into Luke, the 19th chapter. Luke chapter 19. Because the Lord said, I have forsaken my vineyard. Why? It's because his vineyard have rebelled against him. Luke 19. Let's show you what happened when Jesus was here. When he was walking up on Jerusalem, he knew what was going to happen to Jerusalem. In fact, he even wept over it. And he's going to tell you what happened, what's going to happen to Jerusalem. And we're going to go to some history and show you it happened exactly the way he called it, sisters and brothers. Exactly the way he called it. See, the Lord is precise. I was looking at TV the other day, and I saw some Gentile tell me he had been raised up in a monastery, and he'd been in religion and studied religion all his life, and he found out that the Bible and the Word of God makes a lot of mistakes. And I thought to myself, the mistake that you're making, that you see, is you're short of understanding. But when Jesus was walking up on Jerusalem, he saw what's going to happen. Because the Assyrians took us. Then Babylonians took us. Passed us down to the Medo-Persian. Passed us on down to the Greeks. Passed us on down to the Romans. And we still under Roman rule because they scattered us And we've been scattered ever since. Luke 19 and verse 41. This is the last big scattering, sisters and brothers, that took us out of the land, and we haven't been there since. Oh, a few went back there, but we don't own it. Somebody else owns it now. Luke 19 and verse 41. 19 and 41. Okay, read it.
And when he was come near, he beheld the city and wept over it.
Now, when Jesus came near Jerusalem, he looked at it and he wept over it because he knew what was going to happen to it. We're going to show you. Go ahead and read.
Saying, if thou hadst known, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now they are hid from thine eyes.
He said, if only you had known the things which had come to your peace. He said, but now they hid from you. Go ahead and read.
For the days shall come upon thee, that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee round,
Go ahead,
and keep thee in on every side.
The day gonna come when your enemy gonna cast a trench around you and go keep you in on every side. Go ahead.
And shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation.
He said, look, your enemy's gonna cast a trench around you, and they're gonna leave you even with the ground. Otherwise, they're gonna flatten you with your children within you, because you didn't know the time of your visitation. Even though I had my prophets tell it to you all the time, but you ain't listening. Now let's go and show you when this happened. Because they didn't leave one stone upon another. Atlas, this is a history book, Atlas, page 201 and 202. Okay, read it.
In 68, the Roman commander launched a methodical campaign to isolate Jerusalem. The overthrow and suicide of the Emperor Nero brought operations in Judea to a temporary halt as Vespasian prudently withdrew to test the imperial winds.
Now, you know who, everybody know history, know who Nero is. He's the guy that's fiddled while they burnt, while Rome was burning. Anyway, so he died. They probably assassinated him. But while the one was fighting against Jerusalem was Vespasian, which eventually became emperor.
That's right.
But when Vespasian heard about him dying, he went and tested the waters. Go ahead.
Eventually, he himself was declared emperor. Sailing for Rome in the spring of 70, he left his capable son, Titus, in charge of the campaign against Jerusalem.
So he went back to Rome, see if he could become emperor, and he left his son, Titus, which is a general, to still push the assault against Jerusalem. Go ahead and read.
The walls enclosing the temple and the upper and lower cities were the most formidable barrier of all. Postponing an all-out assault, Titus turned to starvation tactics.
Now, instead of just going up there, because they would have lost a whole lot of Roman soldiers trying to come against that big wall that Jerusalem had built around it. So what happened was, he decided, I'm going to starve them out. I'm going to lay siege. Go ahead.
A certain amount of food had been smuggled into the city almost nightly during the siege. But now the Romans sealed off Jerusalem completely with a wall of their own, made of earth and some 5 miles in circumference.
Didn't the Lord say he's going to cast a trench around the city?
That's right.
There ain't nobody going to come in and nobody going to come out. And he's going to lay it even to the ground. So the Romans built a wall all around the city. They had to get, if they're going to build a wall of dirt, they had to dig it out of the ground, sisters and brothers. But go ahead and read.
From the outset of the siege, those attempting to get through the encircling lines had been caught and crucified. Sometimes the daily executions reached 500. The crosses were never bare.
So now, that's why the crucifixion, that don't represent Jesus, sisters and brothers. That's a Roman death sentence. Look here, during the time of the siege in 70 AD, Titus was crucified up to 500 Jews a day. And I want to hang this across my neck? I may as well hang a electric chair across my neck, a hypodermic needle across on my neck, because those are weapons of murder. So they was crucified up to 500 a day because they had that wall around them. They cast that trench about them like Jesus said, so they couldn't get in or get out without the Romans detecting them. Go ahead.
Inside the city, starvation and disease claimed a mounting toll. Bodies filled the streets and were stacked in houses. Thousands of corpses were thrown from the walls into the valleys below. The surviving rebels made a last-ditch stand within Herod's palace.
Go ahead.
The battering rams resumed their rhythmic work. When the legionnaires at last broke into this refuge, they found only corpses.
Because they had died from starvation. Go ahead.
Herod's palace and the rest of the upper city were put to the torch. Jerusalem was a city of the dead.
Now, Titus did that in 70 A.D. Vespasian's son, sisters and brothers. But before he did it, Jesus had given them a warning. The Lord always tell you about destruction, but he always tell you a sign when it's about to come, and you should flee. Just like he's telling us about the end time.
Garments we will wear when we change. Lord, I pray every day. Keep me in your way. I will change. In the twinkling of an eye. With me, you in the sky, we'll never die. Change. Of your son. The victory is won. Lord, I'm so grateful. Gonna change the way that I walk. And I walk. Gonna change the way that I talk. Gonna change the things that I do. Just like you will change. Change the way that I pray. And I pray. Gonna change the things that I say. Lord Jesus, I will obey. Until that day will change. Change the things that I see. And I see. Gonna treat my brother